Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Desert Heat Sports Podcast. Like always, I'm your host, Colin Altmaier. And this week I want to change some stuff up. I'm going to ditch the intro. Not going to give you a preview of everything I talk about this week, but I'm going to tell you that it's exciting. So stay tuned. First, I want to talk about something that it's kind of like a week old by now. I don't know. It's not a week. It feels like a week. It feels like it's been a really long time, but it's really only been like 3 or 4 days. What I'm talking about is the Trump versus Joe Biden boxing match. That was all the rage on Friday. And I got to be the first to say I'd be excited to see this because I definitely know that Trump would win. And it's not because of where I sit politically or whatever. It's just common sense. I mean, Trump's way bigger. Okay, put it this way. People want to make the argument that, oh, Joe Biden looks like he's in better shape, blah, blah, blah. They're both in terrible shape. They're both 70 years old. They both have guts. I don't know that anybody's in good shape that we're talking about, okay? So give me a break on this in good shape. They're both 100 years old and they both have guts. They're not. None of them are any of those Kenyan long distance runners. Okay, so don't give me that. None of them have cardio. Okay. What we do know though is that Trump is a lot bigger. Trump's like 6'3", 230 or something like that, and Biden's something like 5'11", 180. I know Trump, at his size, would definitely be able to dominate him with his jab. And from the athleticism he showed not too long ago in the WWE, I think he'd be able to dominate a lot of exchanges. I haven't seen Joe Biden move, but from what I've seen, I don't know that I like Joe Biden. His movement, I don't know. Maybe he's too old. I don't know what remains to be seen. But what I do know is I have seen Trump. I've seen Trump clothesline Vince McMahon. I've seen him go in for some ground and pound. I don't know. I think it would be pretty lopsided because, yeah, like I said, Trump's a lot bigger. And to be honest, if you look at the past pictures, like I read his book, The Art of the Deal, and in his book he had pictures from when he was younger, and he actually looked pretty athletic. Like there were some pictures where he was looking like kind of like an athlete. So I definitely give the edge to Trump in this mostly joking matchup. I think they opened up Vegas or some of the betting odds places, opened up a line for their fight, and Trump was like minus 300 or something. I think this stuff is so funny because obviously it's not going to happen. It's just fun to talk about, but overall, major stupidity. Major stupidity. I don't know why Joe Biden thinks it's necessary to say that he would beat up the president, and I don't know why the media would think it's okay, and then when Trump comes back and says, "No, you wouldn't beat me up," everybody goes crazy. I don't get it. I don't plan to get it. Well, actually, I do get it. I don't plan to get into it though. I do get it though for sure. But I don't plan to get into it. I just wanted to talk about a little bit about the boxing match. I think, like I said, the past pedigree we've seen leads me to believe Trump would win. Definitely the size advantage now would be too much to overcome, especially at their old age. I don't think it would really be a chance. Plus, Trump just looks a lot younger now. Biden's only like 4 years older than him, but Biden looks like he's decrepit and really creepy. But Trump actually looks a lot younger than he actually is, so be that whatever that may be worth, let it be. I think Trump would win. Let me know who you think would win, because I think it's a funny topic. I think it's fun to talk about, fun to joke around about. My friends and I, we were joking around about it all weekend. Who would win, blah, blah, blah. We were giving up fake scenarios. It's fun to talk about. Now that we started off light, though, I kind of want to get into something a little bit more serious. It's not too serious, but, well, actually, you know what? It is pretty serious. I think MSESPN, as I like to call them, they're at it again. Last week on whatever show they have, First Take, I think, with that communist Max Kellerman. They were trying to say that college basketball is similar to slavery. Now, basically, once I heard that, I just turned it off because I don't know if my ears could take any more stupidity. My brain might start to shrivel up and die if I heard someone say something so stupid for so long. I don't know if I could handle it. I don't know. But really, Bob, my main point in this is I don't care if you think college basketball is like slavery. It's obviously not. It's basically the opposite. Slaves would never get to go to school. They'd never. Okay, wait, I don't know why I'm comparing it, but there's no comparison to be made. It's not even close. It's literally not even close. They literally, most of the D1 athletes get paid. They get a monthly stipend, and maybe it's not ideal, but it's nothing like slavery. And for them to do that's really, really gross, really stupid, honestly. But it shows their business model. They want to go super extreme left wing, and that's their plan, I guess. But I think it shows as a whole, though, that I think it goes. That's just an example. Put it this way: it's just an example of how the media is trying to divide everyone over everything. I think sports are one of the last places. Maybe not anymore, but they were one of the last places where you could go and you could find common ground on anything. Like, there's division in sports. Obviously, there's different teams for a reason, and you're going to root for your team and you have your team's rival. But that's small scale division. And what I mean by this is small scale division is like teams, like I explained earlier, like teams. So I don't like you, you're on this team, blah, blah, blah. But they're still together on the bigger scale. So say you go in somewhere where you don't know anybody and you see somebody say for me, for example, I have my Packers lanyard. I see someone with a lanyard that has the Bears on it. I can go up to him and I can be like, hey, so you like football, and start a conversation that way, and we can talk. And sure, we'll be like, oh, I don't like you, Bears fan, blah, blah, blah. But we're still connected on some level through football. That's small scale division is the teams, and I don't like you because of the team. Big scale division is what they're trying to do through sports now. They're trying to divide us on the bigger picture, which is sports in general. That when you put politics into something, in the way, I don't think politics should do it, but it does. The way it's portrayed today, you have to pick a side, and on that side, you must stay. There's no moving, and you must never listen to the other opinion. You must never budge. And that's how it's portrayed today. And it's really, really sad. And that's probably why there is so much division today, because nobody wants to listen to the other side. They just want to be proven right. But it's been kind of perpetuated in sports, though. It started with these debate shows like First Take, but it started in a fun way. Like, I think Skip Bayless's first one was like cold pizza or something like that. But it started in a fun way where people would pick sides, like Jordan versus LeBron, obviously. That's a big one. And they pick sides like that. People would choose their side. I'm Team LeBron, I'm Team Michael. And that's how they'd get their views up, because everybody would want to be on their team and they want their guy they're rooting for, the side they're rooting for, to win the argument. And that's all good and fun. But until it starts going to more serious issues, which then it becomes obviously more serious when it's a serious issue. And people make it so you must pick a side, like I said earlier, and I don't think it's good for everybody to be, I'm this side, I'm that side, we can't talk. I'm Democrat, I'm Republican, we can't talk. That's not true. You're Democrat, I'm Republican, whatever it is, we're both American. That's the small scale division I'm talking about being turned into large scale division. And that's what places like ESPN are trying to do now, putting politics into sports. Sports is somewhere to get away from the real world. It's where you can have fun and not have to think about things that are going wrong in life. Like on Sundays, you go and you turn on football, and for at least a few hours, you get to forget, oh, maybe I have some troubles with money right now. Oh, maybe I have to do this at work. Maybe all this stuff, anything. It's somewhere where you can get away and you can think, oh, okay, well, at least I have this to tune into without, having to dread watching it. And they're really, really polarizing it. The way they do it is they make their side, they bolster their side, and they just call the other side stupid, which is another reason why it's so polarizing. People don't like to be called stupid, but that's what each side is doing. I don't like it when either side does it, because maybe they're not stupid. Maybe they're just misinformed. Maybe they don't have all the facts for the topic yet, which is most of the time. Most cases, people just don't have all the facts at hand. There's no perfect person in the media. In fact, I think they're all bad. In the way the new media, and that's what I'm going to call it, the new media is tapping into the tribal side of our brain where we pick the side, and they're basically using the tribal side of our brain where we want to pick a side, like I said, and they're making it more and more serious as we go. And the closer we get, or the farther along we get in this, the worse it's going to get. And I just hope it stops soon, because I love sports as a connecting ground for people. I really hope things will be able to become better in the future. I mean, it sounds stupid because I have no solution for it, because there is no easy solution that I could explain in a sports show real fast. I mean, I'm trying to stick to sports. I don't want to go into politics. I don't think they collide. But when I see sports shows, so like I watch these sports shows all day, or I watch or listen to these sports shows all day long. And it's one of my favorite things of all time. That's why I started this podcast, because I absolutely love it. If I could talk about sports for the rest of my life, that's what I'd do. It's something I really care about. And when I see things like this going on in the thing I want to do for the rest of my life, it disheartens me, and it gives me cause to pause. It troubles me. I have to say something about it. I have to get my ideas out there, because in the end, I think that's the only thing that will fix this problem, is getting more ideas out into the world on what we can do to fix the issues. And I think coming together is a real step in the right direction, and getting rid of this politics in sports. There's tons and tons of examples that ESPN has done, and even Fox Sports 1 in the morning with Skip and Shannon and Nick Wright and Chris Carter. The one guy I can say that has stayed away from it and done a really good job at staying away from it is Colin Cowherd. I think he's one of the kind of only places you can go at this point to get no politics in your sports. And the fact that I say there's only about one place you can go shows a lot. Anyways, next topic though, staying on the MSESPN topic, is Michael Bennett. This guy is a fraud. He's a jerk. He's a liar. Whatever you want to call him. It's true. I mean, maybe not all of it, but most of it is true. What I just said, liar, fraud, race baiter, all of it, true. Those three things. Well, you can add felon to the list now. He was just indicted on a felony charge because he pushed a 66-year-old paraplegic woman during the Super Bowl in 2017. And hopefully he goes to jail for it. I think it's been proven through his past actions that he he thinks he's above the law, essentially. He thinks that the world has been against him his whole life. Pro tip, it hasn't been. He's lived a pretty easy life, a lot easier than he wants you to believe. And he thinks because he's lived this oppressed life, which like I said before, he hasn't, but so he's lived this oppressed life, so now he doesn't have to follow the law. Well, no. This is a first world country, and things you make up to yourself don't apply to the rest of everybody. So, yeah, I hope he goes to jail. I mean, it's been proven like during the Las Vegas shootings. If I had a soundboard, if I had a sound guy, I would show you all these clips, but I do not. But during the Las Vegas shooting, or not the Las Vegas shootings, my bad, the incident in Las Vegas with the Las Vegas PD where he lied about them, racially profiling him, he basically was really, really aggressive towards them and really, really just denying authority. He's basically saying, oh, you know, they asked him for his ID and he says, I don't have my ID, just look me up. And then he says, for example, in the at the Super Bowl, he tells the security guards, they're like, hey, you can't go this way. And he's like, fuck you, I'll do what I want. F you, I'll do what I want. And he does it. And then he breaks down a door, pushes a lady, pushes this old woman in a wheelchair, and then he wants to cry racism again. He is the incarnation of the boy who cried racism instead of the boy who cried wolf. Yeah, that's him. This stuff gets more and more ridiculous by the day. I didn't think it could get much worse after the lying about the Las Vegas Police Department, which, by the way, if you were wondering, these cops that supposedly oppressed him, they weren't even white guys. They were 2 Mexican guys and a black guy. So I doubt it was racial profiling, especially when you watch the footage. When you watch the footage of what he did, no innocent looking person sprints through when the police say stop what you're doing, sprints through a casino and hides behind slot machines. Nobody tries to run away from the police and hide behind things when they're looking innocent and not guilty. And then they don't tell the police to F off and act really aggressive towards them when they have done nothing wrong. I know he didn't do anything wrong in that specific instance, but come on, they're going to think something's up, especially when there's a shooting going on and they're trying to find out what's going on, and you do that. So, moral of the story, listen to the police. But now to the explaining, if you don't know what happened, Michael Bennett, after the 2017 Super Bowl, he was in the stands, came down when his brother won, or when his brother's team won, and he was trying to get on the field through an entrance that was not allowed. And the security guards said, no, you cannot do this. And he said, I can do what I want, and basically did what he wanted, supposedly, or allegedly, I should say, broke through a locked door, which obviously he can do. That's not beyond reasonable doubt. He's a huge person and a very strong person, so breaks through the door. Another security guard says, no, you can't do this. And he says, more of the same, expletive, get out of my face, blah, blah, blah. And pushes a guy. Then the lady in the wheelchair is in front of him, pushes her, and apparently pushed her pretty hard, because obviously she's not that strong of a person, but to have visible injuries from a push, to have actual injuries from a push, you have to be pushed pretty hard. So hurts her, and then sprints onto the field. And they're ESP on First Take, obviously, who else would say this? They're trying to defend him. They're like, oh, why was this case only heard now? Well, because Houston's had a whole lot of other problems recently, if you didn't know. I think there's something like a hurricane there. Yeah, something that flooded the whole city. That might hold things up. What else? Maybe more important cases than this might be it too. The way they order their cases by matters of importance, that might be it too. And they're also saying, well, why didn't they stop him right then and there? Well, because they're security guards. They're not police. These people they have to protect the door, obviously, because he just broke through the door, so now anybody that wants to can go through the now broken door. So they have to make sure they stay there. They can't leave the post. It's like when you go to a gas station. When you go to a gas station at night, the employees are trained to not chase after somebody if the employee thinks that person stole something. because if they leave the store empty, they could have friends that come in while they're chasing after them who can rob the rest of the store. So they're trained to stay there. That's similar to what security guards are trained to do. There's a broken door. They can't let anybody through now. The door is broken. Anyone can come through. Now they have to stay there and monitor and guard the door even more now to make sure people don't come through. So now they have to stay at the door. And they know, obviously, it's not, Michael Bennett's not a huge threat. He's just an inconsiderate jerk who decided that he is more important than everyone else in the world. So, yeah, there's tons of people who conclude these statements, who vouch for their validity, and I don't see there's no video that he didn't do it. His sister, I have a video of the whole thing. Puts up the video. It's just clips. They're cheering in the crowd and then they're on the field. Nothing in between. Give me a break. That's not evidence. So I hope he goes. I know the maximum sentence was like $10,000 fine and 10 years in jail. I hope it's not 10 years, but I hope it's like 1 year, a year and a half maybe, just to teach him his lesson. Like, he can't be that inconsiderate to think he's better than the law. And the fact that ESPN is trying to essentially vouch for him, back him up, saying that the police are racist, it's just a stupid claim. The person he attacked was a 66-year-old woman that her legs didn't work. Her legs don't work. She's in a wheelchair. This is the racist person you're defending him against? Give me a break. These people, they just get more and more crazy. It goes back to the point I made earlier about the tribal sides, whatever. I mean, I try to look at it like from an even standpoint. What if somebody I like did this? What if somebody I don't like did this? Well, somebody I don't care for did this, but what if somebody I like did this? I'd probably say the same thing if they had consistent, evidence of them thinking they're above the law, saying things don't apply to them, doing all this. So, yeah, I hope he goes to jail. Him and his book about not liking white people and his whatever. I'm getting off of it. Don't want to get into it too much, but those were my serious points for the day. Now I want to move on to something else. The AAF, the American Alliance of Football, I think is what it stands for. It's the new football league that's coming out to compete with the XFL, and I think it's a pretty good idea. I love when there's competition. So now that there's competition, the XFL and this AAF league are going to compete, and their products are going to get exponentially better, exponentially faster, because they know if they get one-upped by the other league, their ratings are going to tank dramatically, because their leagues are expected to be going on at the same time. So they're both going to be competing now for the same pool of players, these players who aren't as good as the NFL players. They're not NFL level caliber, or they were overlooked as NFL players. I think that's going to be something you see a lot, but I want to get into that in a second. The AAF, they're going to have their games on CBS, some of them at least, which I think is going to be really cool. They're going to, or the CBS Sports, sorry, which is good. I think that's going to be cool. I have football. I have football I have football withdrawals. That's what it is. I have football withdrawals right now. There hasn't been football for a long time, and the draft isn't for another month. So I'm having football withdrawals. I need some football in my life now. And next year I'm going to get that. And then in in another year after that, I'm going to get 2 football leagues during the off season, and I'll basically just be like the happiest person alive. It'll be football year round, and I don't care to take a break from football. I told you before, I love football. I could watch football every day of my life and not get bored. Football is the greatest thing the world has to offer to date. Sorry, anything else. Football, then something else, then something else. You can decide what's after. I'm just deciding for you that football's first. But what else they're going to do is they're going to use a territorial draft, which I think is really, really smart. I think when you get teams when you're getting teams together and you want to get fan interest in the area of that team, you have to draft players that are known to that team. The NFL builds their stars. When you play great, you become a star in the NFL, or you become a well-known player. And you can do that from anywhere because these teams are so well established. But I think if you're a smaller league, you're just starting up, you have to draft the players that are already known from college. So say they have to. This is something that the AAF and the XFL are both going to do. They're going to both have to create some Southern team like an Alabama team. And I think they're both going to end up creating an Alabama team. And they're just going to get all these old Alabama players that didn't make the NFL. And they're going to get insane support from the Crimson Tide fans. It's going to be Crimson Tide 2.0. They might even move it closer to Louisiana, and they might do a Louisiana and Alabama team. I don't know if that would work that well because LSU and Alabama do not like each other, but I think something like that would be really, really smart, and the fan interest for that team would be huge. I think another place that needs a team is the Midwest. Nebraska, Kansas, these places. They haven't had great players as of recently, but I think that the states over there, they don't have a pro team, and their support for their college team is really high. So if they see their college alums going to a professional league, they'd be bound to come. But anyways, back to the territorial draft. I think it's a really good idea. It's a good way to drum up fan interest in the area, and I honestly think that it's gonna. I want to get to it later. I'm going to keep reading off some of the stuff for the league. They're going to have no kickoffs. And also, no kickoffs. Instead, they're just going to place the ball at the 25-yard line and go from there, which is smart, especially for not being a pro league. You don't want these guys to get injured because these guys are going to be essentially showcasing their talents for the NFL, or this is going to be their job. I think I like kickoffs in the NFL, even though there's a high injury rate and these guys are getting hurt doing it. I think it's an important part of the game because there are some kind of athletes you can have in the NFL that can be game breakers in the kickoff game. So, and I also think it adds another level of skill your team needs to have. So I like special teams being in the NFL, but for a league like this, I don't mind special teams not being there. So they're going to have no kickoffs. It's just going to be at the 25. They're going to have no extra point. Everyone has to go for 2. And no kickoffs. That means there's also going to be no onside kicks. But their solution to no onside kicks is if the team wants, they can get the ball on its own 35 in a 4th and 10 situation, and if they're able to convert the 4th and 10, they'll be able to keep going from there. I don't know if I really like that rule. I think it's kind of dumb. I think teams could start really running up scores. Hey, I mean, maybe that's what they want, teams to run up scores, but I think if your team can't get the ball for a really long time, say they go out, and I mean, it's not at some point it could just be a luck thing. They could just, well, I guess I can't say that because if your team's just playing really poor defense and you let the other team convert tons and tons of possessions on a 4th and 10, maybe you deserve to get the score run up on you. So maybe it is a good thing. Because also that means if they don't get it, the ball's going to be placed right at that 35-yard line. So maybe it is more fair than I thought, actually. I didn't think about it like that before. So, you know what? That might not be bad. I kind of want to see how that works. So, back to what I was saying, though, that point I was telling you about. I think that this league could be a showcase for talent that wants to be seen by the NFL. I think sometimes the NFL wants to see these kids have more experience, but college doesn't allow them to get that experience. I think this extension will be really, really key, and I honestly think it'll make the NFL skill level go way up. When you saw the AFL, they found a lot of good players that the NFL wasn't finding, but they also took some talent away. But this league isn't going to be like the AFL. They're not going to be competing with them. They want to help funnel talent to them. So they're going to help find some players, that the NFL, they need to see more from them. They need to see they go to this league, they can go up. But also it's going to help them find some gems that they wouldn't have been able to find beforehand. So you're going to get a lot of talented guys because there's tons of guys. The stories about the undrafted guys going to the NFL and doing great things. So think about undrafted guys. Think about how many guys have just been skipped over altogether. I think this league is going to bring something really great, and this is what really excites me about these leagues, is I think that the talent they're going to find, and it's exciting for me because when I think of guys being able to get extra chances to do the things they love, I don't know, it makes me excited. So when they're able to do that, I think not only is it going to make the NFL better, but it's going to make these leagues better too, because they'll get these stars that'll move up and so on, but they'll find some gems, and there'll be some guys to really make an impact. And I think the first few guys, the NFL might balk at the first few guys. They'll be like, oh yeah, this guy, he's a star in this D league for us, but whatever. And I think soon I think there will be a guy, how that'll be. There will be the one guy who will be dominating down there, and they'll be like, okay, we'll give him a shot. It'll be something like the Cowboys. The Cowboys will pick him up, and the Cowboys will be risky enough to play him. A team like that. They'll be risky enough to play him, and he'll go off. And he'll really prove that he should have been in the league. And that'll be the start, and it'll be like an avalanche after that. So I'm really excited to see that. And the fact that it starts in 2019 is even more exciting to me. The XFL starts in 2020. And I mean, that's not that far away. But 2019 is just around the corner. So very, very excited for the AAF Football League and the XFL Football League, if you could not tell. So next, I want to get into this. I thought this was really, really cool, and it sparked a question for me. So LeBron, he just got a school approved in Akron. That's really cool to me. He's been helping so much in that community, and he is really he's just the most stand-up guy. And honestly, it brought up the question to me, is he the greatest public figure athlete of all time? People might want to say Muhammad Ali and all that. That's a very, very good point. I think Muhammad Ali is probably still number one, but I think LeBron could be a close second. As far as athletes go, I mean, who's done more for their community and more for people in general, really, than LeBron James? He's provided kids with scholarships for college. He's provided this school now. He provides so much stuff. Like, he makes an insane amount of money, but he also uses his money for good. And I really like that. That's one of the reasons LeBron's my favorite player. I don't care what side of whatever he's on. Whenever he's doing something, it's usually a good thing. He's a good person, great player, and I just thought that was really, really cool. I wanted to point that out. There wasn't really a bigger point to it. I just wanted to say something about it. I think him getting the school approved is really cool, and he could be in consideration not for only best NBA player ever, which I think he is, but greatest public figure athlete of all time. I don't know how else you'd put that, but that's the best way I could think of. Next, basketball related, Cavs related. Hey guys, newsflash. Kevin Love's a really good player. People were talking like before last week. They were talking like the Cavs were going to barely limp into the finals. Hello. Kevin Love hasn't been there. Rodney Hood's been hurt, not playing great before. They have Kyle Korver misses a couple games. They have no Tristan Thompson, which they might be better off without him, but whatever. I mean, come on. They don't have their second best player, who's a really good scorer, and honestly, kind of an underrated defender. He was getting some of the blame when they were doing poorly, but you know what? I think that's just because Isaiah Thomas is really good at passing the buck. I like Isaiah Thomas, but he's a really big point the fingers guy. He likes to point the fingers at everyone else before him. And that's just not cool. But anyways, Kevin Love's a really good player. I don't know how people didn't notice that. he comes in. Since he came in, they're undefeated. Is that a surprise? No. I mean, they just look a ton better. I think LeBron, for him to be very, very good, he's already borderline unstoppable. But with a stretch 4 big, he needs a stretch 4 big to be successful, or to be successful at a very high level. And I think that's become kind of clear. His best years, he's always had, stretch 4 bigs. Obviously, before, when he was really young, he didn't have, stretch 4 bigs, but he was just doing his thing back then. He was young, going all out all the time. And I guess at that point, he didn't really need a stretch 4 big. But ever since he was in Miami, that luxury of having a stretch 4 big has kind of afforded LeBron the ability to create a new game, honestly. And I think that having Kevin Love in the lineup is going to put him over the edge. They're obviously going to make the finals. I don't think Toronto has a chance. They'll maybe win one game. I'd give them one game. Outside of that, I don't see it being that competitive. I think with Kevin Love, from what I've seen these few games, and I know it sounds like an overreaction. I overreacted last time after all those trades in the first game when they boat raced Boston, but I really do like the way their team looks with Kevin Love a lot more, because they're able to spread out the floor a lot better. They don't have to run stupid Jeff Green at center. I mean, I like Jeff Green. He's a really good player, but hey, Ty Lue, how about you don't run Jeff Green at center? I think their best lineup is going to end up being George Hill at the 1, Jordan Clarkson at the 2, LeBron at the 3, Kevin Love at the 4, and Zizic at the 5. I think they're going to find a lot of success with that lineup, because I think at some point they're going to need a real center. They can't just keep running power forwards at center like Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love. They can do that occasionally, but I think at some point you need a guy who can bang on the boards. Especially against a team like Houston, who has 2 really good guards, but they also have a top-tier center. You're going to need somebody big like that who can compete with a Capella. And I think having a center who can play at a decent level is going to help their team a lot. Sure, the reason they run these power forwards at the center is because of spacing, but aside from Kevin Love, all their guys have done is clog up the paint and not get rebounds. And that's one of the things you need to win. Obviously, if you get extra chances to score, you're going to win. So not having a big to grab you boards is really detrimental. And you can see that in a lot of their games they played. When they're running, Jeff Green or LeBron at center. LeBron can play center in stints. But against real centers, eventually he's going to lose his effectiveness, because he's just not as big as those guys. He's 6'8", 270 or whatever he is, and that's huge, obviously, but the centers he's going up against are 7-footers. It's just different. It's a different size thing. It's a positioning thing. It's a skill level at the position thing. So having a true center, a stretch 4 big, is really, really helping him and will really, really help him down the stretch. So keep watching Cleveland. Keep watching what they're doing. I think Kevin Love's first big game back against Toronto, I think that really shows what they can do. And ever since, really, I mean, they've just been going off, or LeBron's been going off. Something insane, he's 30, 10, and 10. Or no, 30, 10.2, and 10.2 or something like that. Maybe he was 31. I don't know the exact numbers. I don't have them in front of me. But he's doing something like that since the All-Star break. There's no slowing him down. He's insane. He's a superhuman. He's a freak. He's a beast. He's a god. Whatever you want to call him, that's what he is. And I think as long as he has another star with him and a stretch 4 and some depth, you're going to see him go far. I remember telling you guys that this Cavs team really reminds me of the Rockets, and they still do. And I think that when they match up, because I think they're going to match up, I think that's what the finals matchup is ultimately going to be. So I think when they match up, it's ultimately going to be a really, really good series in one of the most fun matchups we've seen in a while. And that brings me to another point I want to talk about, and that's the Warriors. I think the Warriors are actually kind of in big trouble if they can't get healthy soon. Steph Curry, it got announced that he's going to be out through the first round of the playoffs. And I think that's bad news for them, especially if they have to face the Jazz. Now you're going to be like, oh, Colin, what's so good about the Jazz? The Jazz are a really, really good defensive team. And Steph Curry is by far the Warriors' best playmaker. And without a playmaker and another guy to spread the floor, I don't know if they'll be able to take on the Jazz, who are a really, really good defensive team. Ever since they've gotten Jay Crowder, they've been on an absolute tear. That trade they did with Cleveland helped them a ton. Donovan Mitchell's been able to get more minutes. It's not that Rodney Hood was a bad player. It's just that, their system works better without Rodney Hood. And now they have Dante Exum back. They're looking really, really good and a team that's going to be really good in the future. But this year, if they end up getting that 7 seed, I think Golden State needs to look out. I think if they have Kevin Durant and Klay back and all this, they'll be fine. They'll be mostly fine, I should say. It'll be a long series, but they'll ultimately win. But if Klay's not hot, if he's not fully recovered from that broken hand, and Kevin Durant's still crying about his ribs, and Draymond's doing whatever he's doing, you're going to see the Jazz beat the Warriors in a 4-game series. Donovan Mitchell, very good. Dante Exum, good. Ricky Rubio, good. Jay Crowder, good. Rudy Gobert, very good. Their team it's deep, it's defensive. Their shooting is average, but when you have really good defense, you don't need great 3-point shooting. I guess against a team like the Warriors you will, but my main point is I think that Stephen Curry is a main focal point for the Warriors, and they play a lot worse without him. Now that's kind of obvious. He's a great player. Obviously not going to be as good without him, but I think it says something about what KD does to the team. He's not the same kind of, and it's weird for me to say, he's not the same kind of player Steph Curry is, at least for the Warriors. I think Steph Curry just brings something different to the team. He brings a kind of ball handling, a kind of swagger to the team that KD doesn't. KD, he has no swagger, literally. He doesn't. He's a chameleon. He latches on to somebody else's swagger, and he just tries to copy it. Like their style, he just jacks everyone's style, basically. That's what KD does. Like I said before, that's part of the reason why I don't like him anymore. He's one of my least favorite players because of this. He just can't be himself. And that's something people guys in the locker room pick up on. And that's why I think Steph Curry is really important to that team. He's a big part of their culture, and without him, they're in trouble. So watch out. Like I said, Jazz get that 7 seed. Golden State better watch out, because there's no way Golden State's getting back up to the 1st seed. So they're basically locked into the 2nd seed at this point. 5 games back of the Rockets. I don't see them catching them with the amount of games that are left. So Golden State really needs to watch out. They need to mind their P's and Q's coming up. Because to think, people want to, okay, here's another argument before I get off the topic too. People want to be like, oh, well, last year everybody thought the Cavs were doomed and they just turned it on. That's different. The Cavs are in the East and they literally just stopped trying. It's a little different for the Warriors because they're all hurt. At least the Cavs were playing last year and knew they could turn it on. The Warriors right now aren't even playing. So what are they going to turn on if they can't play or haven't been playing? I just don't see it. I think you really need to watch out for the Jazz. The Jazz could take down the Warriors if they are not careful and if they are not healthy. Look out for that. Next, I want to get to a little bit of free agency. A free agency update. If you do not know, the Rams just got Ndamukong Suh. I don't really think it matters. I probably doesn't matter. I don't think it does. A lot of people are hyped for it because he's a big name and he's getting matched up with Aaron Donald and they're going to be unstoppable and all this. But they need edge rushers. And all they did was just added another interior rusher who's seemingly past his prime. Or that's what he's played like these past few years. So why'd they get another interior rusher? Everybody knows Wade Phillips' systems are so much better with edge rushers rather than interior rushers. Look at the team in Denver. What did they have when they won the Super Bowl? DeMarcus Ware on one side, Von Miller on the other side. Edge rushers. Sure, they had some pressure up the middle, but those guys were mainly run stuffers. Now, I'm not discounting the skill level of Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh. That's not what I'm doing. I think Aaron Donald is one of the best defensive players in the league, and he rivals J.J. Watt when he's healthy as the best defensive player in the league, or at least best defensive lineman. So, yeah, I'm not downplaying that. I really like Aaron Donald too. I think the way that Aaron Donald, he kind of brings a new age of defensive linemen in a way. The smaller, stronger, quicker defensive linemen, I don't know that a lot of guys can replicate it either, because the way he's able to use his leverage and get inside on these guys with long arms, their pads, it's just insane. He's a very, very special player, very special talent. So it's not a thing that I don't like Aaron Donald, I don't like Suh, whatever. It's just they didn't address their need. Why do they need another interior rusher? Like I said, Wade Phillips' system needs edge rushers to be more successful. Maybe they get one in the draft, I don't know. But from what I see from this move, they didn't become all that much better, I should say. Are they very good? Easily. They're great. They're going to be great next season. But did they become over the top better from this? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. Maybe the next thing I want to get into is maybe Odell Beckham's going to the Rams next. That's what some people are talking about. The Rams are inquiring to trade for Odell Beckham after New York Giants GM and owner came out, and it seems like they're kind of fed up with Odell. He said recently that he's not going to step foot on the field until he gets his payday. And that did not sit well with the Giants' upper management and owner system. That did not sit well with them. This is coming after he was spotted in France with an Instagram model, pizza, a blunt, and some white substance that some say is cheese powder for the pizza, some say is cocaine. You be the judge of that. I can tell you what the Giants think it was. But, yeah, saying you want to get paid after doing something dumb like that, probably not the best move. And the Giants don't think it is either, because now they're reportedly open to trade offers for him. They're looking to trade him, supposedly. I think it could be a good idea for the Giants. I think that some of the moves they could make with Odell could actually be really, really interesting. Maybe they could even snag another top 5 pick by trading him. The Colts are an interesting team to look that could use him. The Browns, maybe. Their receivers are already great. I don't know if they could really use him the way he would like to be used. So I don't see the Browns as a true landing spot for him. But there's a lot of moves that could open up for him. I think some teams that would be really interesting for Odell, the Rams, obviously. He could replace somewhat of what Sammy Watkins did last year for the Rams. That would be cool. I think that the Patriots way. Picture how Belichick-esque would it be if Odell Beckham, this troubled player, goes to New England and kind of gets his act under control under Belichick. Who would that be reminiscent of? Another all-time great. I think he wore 84. the Patriots, that would be a cool place to go. I think a trade for Odell would include something like Brandon Cooks, a first round, maybe a later round, but it would include some kind of combination of that. And that would be insane too. Think about Odell and Gronk on the same team. That would be very, very interesting to watch. Another team that would maybe think about trading for him, the Ravens, obviously. I mean, what much can you say about the Ravens, really? I mean, they're the Ravens. They have Joe Flacco at quarterback. Not that interesting of a place to go. I know they just got Michael Crabtree. Oh, yay, you signed your first receiver ever. Oh, that's cool. I mean, at least this receiver's not like 37 like you did with Steve Smith. So I guess that could be a step up. I think another place that might be really interesting to see Odell go to is Carolina. Now, I know they're not in the rumors, but I'm just trying to think of interesting fits for Odell Beckham. And I think a pairing of Odell and Cam would be super, super cool. Super interesting. I think Cam needs a guy like Odell, like a really extreme playmaker. He hasn't had like a receiver that's been a crazy playmaker like Odell. And maybe some of Cam Newton's accuracy problems could be solved like a guy who can make crazy catches, has an extreme catch radius like Odell. I think those are some things to keep in mind. We'll see what happens. Do I think the Giants trade him? Probably not. Probably not. Is it fun to talk about? Definitely. Definitely fun to talk about. But next, I want to get into baseball. Baseball's starting up in a couple days, if you do not know. And my team, the Diamondbacks, if you didn't know that either, my team's the Diamondbacks. They're playing, I can't believe I forgot who they're playing right now. The D-backs, I know the opening day is in a couple days, and the D-backs are playing, if I could find the game, the D-backs are playing, well, it's not going to show up. Whatever, they're playing somebody. What do I think of their team this year? I think the D-backs, they had a really, really good year last year, and they went on that crazy win streak. They got up to 14. They did this really cool deal last summer. I think $50, you could go to all 25 of their home games during the summer, and I got 2 of them, and me and my little brothers, we would go to the games. We went to almost all of them. It was the most games I've ever been to, and it was so much fun because they were winning, and I'd really hope they do that again this summer because I'd like to see it again. But I do not think they will be, in the end, as good as they were last year. Some of the main reasons why: big one, no JD Martinez. Now, I know they didn't have him at the beginning of the year, but you get kind of used to a guy that's that great. Once you get used to having a guy like that, it's kind of hard to get used to playing without him, so that'll take a little while. Zach Greinke, obviously, another year older. We'll see what he does. There's talks again this year. Last year there were talks that his velocity fell off. This year those talks are back. Not very good to hear an older pitcher that you're paying something like $30 million to is having problems with his arm. Not good to hear that. So I hope he'll be ready to go. I hope he's as good as he was last year. But not very optimistic heading into the year for Zach Greinke. Hopefully Patrick Corbin keeps progressing like they say. Hopefully Robbie Ray keeps progressing like they say. Hopefully Shelby Miller comes back and can play like those last 2 games he played before he hurt his elbow and had to get Tommy John. So maybe our pitching rotation will be saved by the return of Shelby Miller. Something I never thought I'd hear myself say. I've been the ultimate Shelby Miller hater for the past couple of years. I thought trading away Dansby Swanson was so dumb. I mean, it's proven to be pretty much a wash because Dansby Swanson hasn't been that great, but still. Why would you trade a number one prospect for a guy who just threw for 4.29 ERA? Doesn't make sense. I digress, though. The D-backs, I think one thing they did do, though, is they added like a little bit better of a rotation for their outfield. They have a deeper set of hitters, and they have a deeper set of defenders, too. They got better on the infield. I mean, overall, they kind of just traded JD Martinez. Instead of paying him a big contract, they traded that for depth, which could pay off in the end. I don't know. I'm excited to watch him play, though. My predictions for the NL and AL. I think for the AL, one team I really, really want to see, the Yankees. They're gonna be insane. What's the nickname for the Yankees with Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton? I don't know if there's a nickname going around. I want there to be a nickname because it's gonna be something with brothers, obviously, but we'll figure it out. I'm gonna look it up and see if there's any nicknames for them. But I'm excited to watch them. I think them in Yankee Stadium, there's gonna be tons and tons of dingers. It's going to be one of the craziest like teammate duos we've seen power hitter wise in a long, long time, maybe ever. I'm trying to think back of power hitters like that on the same team. Oh, and you can't forget, they have Gary Sanchez too. So that's 3 really, really good power hitters. The Yankees they're going to be so fun to watch this year. They're going to be so fun. And that divisional race with the Red Sox is going to be crazy. So I'm excited to see what the Yankees have to offer this year. The Astros, it's going to be more of the same with them. They have tons of good players. So I expect another good season out of them. The Indians, same with them. Nothing really changed. Honestly, this offseason in the MLB was kind of boring. Nobody really got signed, and there's still a lot of guys on the market. So, I don't know what's in store for next year. It could be more the same as last year. I don't know, but NL is basically the same too. There weren't really, like I said, that many major moves. I mean, JD Martinez went to the Red Sox, but I don't think JD Martinez going to the Red Sox puts them over the Yankees at this point. I think the Yankees have a little bit better pitching until David Price can come back and show what he's all about. I think the Yankees have better pitching. They obviously have better hitting. They're going to hit more home runs by far. But I don't know. I'm excited for baseball, though. I'm going to give you an update next week, and I will start adding baseball games. Starting next week, I will start adding baseball games to my bets at the end of each episode. So be on the lookout for that next week. And as we move into some of the last topics, got to talk about March Madness. What kind of sports show would this be if we didn't talk about March Madness during March? Come on. I'll start off Duke versus Kansas. That was one of the best college basketball games I've seen, and maybe even just plain basketball games I've seen in a long, long time. The coaching was a really high level. Skill was really high. I really liked what those two teams had to offer. I thought Duke definitely had the better talent, and I think with a coach like Coach K, you should be able to pull that out. And I think maybe that could project something about Marvin Bagley into the future. When you have a player like that, you need to take over the game in the end and bring, what's needed to win. So I don't know what that says about Bagley, but Kansas played a great game too. You can't take that away from them. They were getting, I think, off inbounds out of timeouts. Their scoring off out of timeouts was insane. They were scoring on almost, I think it was like 60 to 70% of them. It was something crazy like that. Don't quote me on it, but it was something like that. So, the coaching on Kansas' side was really good. And I think the better team won. I think Duke might have been more talented, but the better team on that day won, just like every day in the tournament. So Duke versus Kansas, great game. And honestly, I hope that the next round is able to bring us more games like this. I think Kansas versus Villanova, people are going to kind of say, oh, this is the real national championship. Well, hold on, pump the brakes. We could still get a really good matchup. You don't know. The teams on the other side of the bracket are really good defensively. Now, does that bring up a question of, did they stack the right side of the bracket too heavily? Probably. Most definitely probably. I mean, at first, the top left side, was that the South? That looked really strong. It had Arizona as a 4 seed, Kentucky as a 5. It had Virginia as a 1, Cincinnati as a 2. I mean, that bracket was looking... It had Tennessee as a 3. I mean, it wasn't great, but there were some good teams in there, especially good defensive teams. And I think that's a problem where that's just the way they formed the bracket was poor. When you put a ton of really, really good defensive teams all in the same part of the bracket, and I think that's why we got so many upsets, is when you put too many really good defensive teams against each other with limited offenses, you're going to get upsets because the games are going to be a lot closer. And you saw that. Teams like Cincinnati, they play their games really close. Virginia played their games pretty close. Other teams, Tennessee, they played their games a little bit closer, good defensively. Loyola, obviously, good, really good defensively. They play their games close. Those are just a couple examples. But when you get teams that play close with good defense, you're going to get a lot of upsets because when it comes down to a last shot, it's 30% chance, 50% chance, 40% chance. One side is going to come out. Obviously 50-50 based on the shot, whatever, yada, yada. It's like 50-50 of who's going to come out winning. So that's something they might need to look at next year. But back to my original point, I think that you need to pump the brakes on this being a bad matchup. These are two good defensive teams in Michigan and Loyola. I mean, Loyola's proven they're really good defensively. I think Michigan's really good defensively. Villanova, they're going to be a tough matchup no matter who they play. They've been playing so good. Like the skill they've been playing at, Jay Wright is a really, really good coach. He's really good. I wouldn't be surprised if he went to the NBA eventually, took a job there to see what was going on, but he's been really, really good. Him and Villanova. I mean, the West Virginia wasn't really a match for them. They had it close down coming towards the end. I think they got it within 4, but you could see that Villanova had the game basically in their grips the whole time. Like, they weren't letting up. And as for the Loyola versus Kentucky State game, I think it was obvious that Kentucky State was the worst team. And if you took my advice, like I said, and took Loyola last week, you would be in a lot better position this week. Because I knew Loyola would win. 1 plus a point and a half was too easy, especially with the way they've been playing. I knew that they would take down Kentucky State because they've just been a really good defensive team, and the way Kansas State was shooting against Kentucky, it just showed a really, really big hole in their game. And then Loyola handled them, and they won by something like 10 points. So that wasn't very surprising to me. And then obviously the Michigan game, they just trounced. I forget who they even played, to be honest. That's how badly they won. Oh yeah, Gonzaga. I think no, Florida State. Sorry, Florida State. They beat down Florida State. That's not too surprising. It was a little surprising, but they beat them down. So look forward to some of the matchups coming up in the Final Four in San Antonio, I think. Looking forward to those two matchups. I think I'll get into my bets for the weekend, who I'm taking in the Final Four matchups. I will say take Kansas +5, but I think Villanova will win. It will just be a close game. So take Kansas +5 to cover, and also take Loyola +5 to cover. Like I said earlier, Michigan and Loyola both play teams really close because they both play really good defense. And unless Michigan's able to carry over their insane hot streak from their last game, I don't think that they'll be able to pull out a big victory. So Loyola +5 is a good line to take. I would take that one quicker than I'd take the Kansas one, but I think they're both pretty safe to take +5. And obviously, as we always do, I'm going to get into my NBA picks too. So to start off the night, you have Spurs versus the Wizards. You have the Spurs -1.5. I'd take the Spurs -1.5. I think their team has got to be a little bit more aggressive at this point. You had that little team feud that was going on with Kawhi and Tony Parker and Ginobili, so they might be playing with more of a fire. So I look for them to cover an easy 1.5 point spread. That just means they have to win by 2, which is almost every win is at least by 2. So definitely take the Spurs -1.5. Next game, Toronto -9 at home against Denver. Take that -9. Denver's a really streaky team. They can be hot and they can be cold. And if they're cold, which I think they probably will be on the road for their 5th straight game, I think, in Toronto, I don't think they'll be able to keep it close enough. I think Toronto will cover the -9 point spread. Next, you got the Cavs -4. I think they're at the Heat. So, yeah, they're at the Heat, -4. Take that. -4 against the Heat right now. The Cavs are playing really well. I don't see the Heat having anything to offer the Cavs as far as competition. And this game is my bet game. This is my game of the week. Take this pick to the bank, please. Trailblazers +1.5. The Trailblazers have been playing out of their mind, and they get a 1.5 against the Pelicans. Come on, give me the Trailblazers +1.5. Next up, we got the Rockets -18. Now, for some people, this spread will scare you away. A -18 point spread is really risky because how often do teams win by 20? Well, put it this way. The margin's that big for a reason. The Rockets are probably going to roll the Bulls, and it'll probably be by a lot. Most of the time when teams are projected to have a gigantic point spread, I think the opposing team covers maybe like 15% of the time. It's not high. So I don't see the Bulls covering even an 18-point spread, which is kind of sad. So I'd take the Rockets too, -18. Next up, we got Dallas -2 against the Kings. I've been kind of hating on Dallas in my picks, I noticed. I don't know why. Dallas is an alright team, but they've been proving me wrong. I'll take a chance on them. Take Dallas -2. The Kings aren't a good team, a really young team. They're just not together yet. And Dallas they at least have some veteran leadership in Dirk. So take Dallas -2. I mean, it's not that hard for them to cover a 2-point spread. So either way, going either way on this bet isn't bad because it's a -2. This isn't a real game that you'd bet a lot on because it's such an either way game. Next up, which is a little bit surprising, is the Pacers -5 at Golden State. The Golden State still obviously doesn't have any of their stars, and Indiana's fighting for that 4th seed. Maybe they think they can get to a 3rd seed, so they're going to be playing really, really hard against this Golden State 2nd team. So take the Pacers -5. There's no point in not taking them. They're going to be playing hard. Golden State's probably not going to be playing hard. They just got blown out by 21 at home against the Jazz last night, so look for them to probably lose by at least 7. Wouldn't be surprising to me. And last but not least, you got the Bucks +3 at the Clippers. Now I say take the Bucks +3 simply because they're fighting for a playoff spot too. And the way it looks now is the Clippers are not very close to a playoff spot. So who knows? Hopefully the Bucks will play smarter and stronger than they have been in the past because they have not been playing great. They're a real streaky team too, probably because of how young they are. But I think they'll be able to string something together here at the end and stay in the playoffs in the East. So those are my picks for the week. Hopefully next week I'll be able to add on to my great record. Last week, oh dang it, I forgot to add up my wins from last week. I know what you're thinking. It's not because I had a losing record last week. I think I went even. So that's not why. I just forgot. I actually did forget. But next week I'll have my updated overall wins and losses for my bets I've made. This week I'll be taking all these picks to the bank. You know it. You better take them to the bank too if you want to make some cash. This is not a statement of truth. This is just an opinion. But in my opinion, you'll be taking it to the bank. I'm no expert though. So also don't hold me liable. As a law student, I know to leave these little disclaimers in there. Anyways, that's it for the show. I talked about just about everything from the past week. Everything from our president versus Joe Biden in a boxing match. Some serious topics in division in the sports media. I talked some up-and-coming football leagues. I talked some baseball. I talked some basketball. I talked some LeBron. I talked some betting, obviously. Fun stuff I like to do. So, like always, please subscribe, leave your feedback, email me, follow me on Twitter, go anywhere, leave me some suggestions, tell me what you think. I always appreciate when people do that. I like to read your feedback. I want to know what people think of the work I'm doing. I'd like to hear some other thoughts, some counterpoints to what I have to say. Like I said earlier, the best way to make ideas better is by having more ideas. You never know what the best idea is until you hear them all. So let me know. Subscribe, comment, do whatever. As always, this was the Desert Heat Sports Podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you all next week. Peace.